He just started talking to me about the chiropractic principle. It made sense to me because I'm a science guy. I'm a science geek. That's even in high school. I graduated with all the maybe not the highest grades, but heading into the world of serving people in healthcare, that's where I knew I wanted to be. And he just took me through the principles and shared some of the miracles of chiropractic that he experiences in practice. And he just kind of looked at me. He says, "I really think you make a great chiropractor."
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Colin Elkin, and this morning, my guest is somebody who I'm just beginning to get to know, but I'm really intrigued because, this fellow's been in practice now for over 20 years, has a great practice in Northern Ontario, and is highly involved in Canadian chiropractic. And so I'm so interested to hear what he has to say, not to mention the fact that he is actually working on his business that is helping to educate and inspire people about the principle of chiropractic, which we're going to get into this morning. So I have Dr. Greg Zoldy from Owen Sound with me this morning. Dr. Greg, thanks for being with us.
Hey, it's a privilege and an honor. Thank you, Dr. Collin. This is awesome.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. So, I like starting, and I always like starting my podcast with history because I'm intrigued how people get into chiropractic. It's not like, because I always said when you're a little kid running around, when you're out with your friends playing road hockey or doing whatever you're doing, riding bikes, it's not like you say to your buddies, "Hey, when I grow up, I'm going to be a chiropractor." Maybe that's maybe the odd occasion, but it's not the norm. So I'd love to know what inspired you to get into chiropractic and follow this passion.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, just that upbringing of the simple life and playing road hockey and stuff. I grew up in a small town, southern Ontario, and really chiropractic wasn't. I didn't have any one of those miracle stories of chiropractic saved my life or cured me of anything. It really was kind of happenstance. And when I was reflecting on this from other people that asked me, it's like happenstance, a little bit of inspiration, people planting seeds in me, and really just a genuine calling to go after this profession. Um, yeah, I was hell-bent. In high school, I did co-ops with my dentist. I went into University of Waterloo with a dental aptitude test with my little soap carvings and everything. I was gonna be a dentist, and I came home one summer to work with my church youth group, and we were at the fall fair selling corn on the cob, I think it was, to raise money for the youth group for something that we were doing. And right across from our little corn on the cob booth and doing our evangelism was Dr. Robin Whale. And you may know Dr. Robin.
I know,
Uh,
Robin.
yeah.
Hmm.
And he kind of knew me through my older brothers, and he kind of just waved me over, and I could see his booth. He was doing spinal screening and outreach. And he says, like, what are you doing? You're in university now. Like, what are you going after? And I told him, like, I was thinking about dentistry, but you in a undergrad bachelor of science. And he says, like, have you done chiropractic before? And I'm like, I had no experience with chiropractors before. And he just started talking to me about the chiropractic principle. And, it made sense to me, because I'm a science guy. I'm a science geek. That's even in high school. I graduated with all the maybe not the highest grades, but heading into the world of serving people in healthcare, you know, that's where I knew I wanted to be. And he just took me through the principles and shared some of the miracles of chiropractic that he experiences in practice. And he just kind of looked at me. He says, "I really think you make a great chiropractor." And I tell that story to everybody because I think everyone has somebody who poured into them some belief or some incentive to, like, you should really consider this, or you really need this. And that was my first seed. And, I went back to university. I was a don at the village there. And I met other people, Dr. Sean Murphy, you might even know him too.
Yep.
He was my don at the time, and he was heading to National Chiropractic College. He knew where he was going. And, like, what are the chances that he would be my don, right? After I've had the seed planted. So I really just think that God had me in his hand and just directed the course of my life and the people around me to pursue this awesome profession.
My favorite BJ quote is the quote that says, "You never know how far-reaching something you think, say, or do may affect the lives of millions tomorrow." And you see evidence of that everywhere, especially in our profession. But Robin Whale planted the seed, and other people nurtured that seed, and here you are. After 20, what is it, 24 years in practice for you? I think you're a 2001 graduate from CMCC.
Yeah, yeah, it was I was a prodigy of CMCC, and it was a really unique experience too. Again, you think about the people that you surround yourself with. And at that time, there was greatness around me at that era of 2001. Actually, some of the grads from like 99 to 2001, the Ryan Frenches, the James Chestnuts, the John Minardi's, like these are guys that I just hung around with, the friends in chiropractic. They were bringing in Reggie Gold and DeMartini into the gymnasium at Young and Eglinton. It was just amazing, that experience of getting a good education, obviously solid in science, because that's what CMCC is known for, in a mechanistic model. But I was really privileged to be surrounded by really principled docs that were very sound in their science of subluxation, but really rich with philosophy as well. So, and countless trips down to Mount Horeb, Wisconsin, to the Gonstead Clinic as well. I was very passionate about honing my craft and being a great adjuster. So yeah, I really truly believe that me placing myself in rooms of greatness, I've been very intentional in my life to do that, and grateful.
And obviously the influence that it had on you to create and shape your success. So tell me, after CMCC, so you grew up in a town in Southern Ontario. How did you end up in Owen Sound?
Yeah, just again, I think it was in the gymnasium. It was practice opportunities, and they host that event. I think they still host that, and where doctors come in, they're looking for associates and all that sort of thing. And I went down into the gymnasium at that point, and I could see all the fancy booths, and the setups and all the stuff and high tech. It was all in the city. But growing up in a small town, a small hockey town near the water, in Port Hope, Ontario, it was just like I didn't really have a feel for the city. And I saw this little piece of paper on a just plain piece of paper, practice opportunity on Georgian Bay. And I went, hmm. And so it was a practitioner, Dr. Sheila, she was retiring because of health issues, but she was a independent contractor in another office with Dr. Vale, who had been at the time, he had been in practice for 30 years, and just a really great man of faith, a great adjuster, a great chiropractor, great, again, just, I think God just said, yep, this is a good spot for you. Surrounded me with great people, and been blessed to call this my home uh, for a long time.
And so I understand you just moved your office just recently. How did that all go? Because that's an uproar and chaos in your practice and your personal life. So how has the transition been?
Well, I guess I'm kind of well versed at it. This is my fifth location in this town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and all for good reasons. It all came because of growth, and I think also opportunity. Every time I moved my practice, it was because of practice growth, and I kind of outgrew it, or the model and the way that I wanted to practice didn't suit the physical environment. So, yeah, I thought I had bought a building about 8 years ago, and just really decked it out awesome. And it was big. I mean, it's a 2,500 square foot building. Just before that, I was shooting some pretty high volume. I suffered a pretty bad shoulder injury, and that sort of set me back a bit. And so ever since then, I've been, looking for the right associate or opportunities to grow the practice and fill the walls. But it just so happened that Community Living, it's an organization that helps people with physical and intellectual disabilities. They had a huge building right behind me, and we were already sharing parking spots and all that sort of stuff because they were outgrowing their building. And they approached me. They said, "Hey, would you be interested in us, buying or renting your space?" I said, "Sure, I can do what I do anywhere." So yeah, so I just moved into another location, my fifth and hopefully final location, and we're just being back to grassroots, keeping things simple. And it was a great opportunity just to do that. And We're still ironing out the wrinkles, but the new sign went up actually yesterday, and it's great. It's a great space.
Well, congratulations on that. I know how much work that is. So tell me about practice style. So you got into some CBP and doing some corrective care. So how does that fit in? Like obviously coming from a subluxation based background and philosophical background, how has your practice life and practice style resonated with that? How'd you get into CBP?
Yeah, CBP, like originally, like I said, Gonstead was I was a Gondroid from the beginning. So I loved analysis, and that was my jam, was knowing every single listing in from C1 to S1, and really analyzing and being a good technician, and refining my skills as an adjuster. And I did that right from the beginning. I always had mentors. We would go out to a doc's place. Dr. Fred Mahili was one of my mentors, and unfortunately, he tragically passed away years ago. But I always wanted to hone my skills and analysis, and from a subluxation perspective, knowing that yes, this may be a mechanical or a mechanistic or a postural distortion of the spine, but I always knew that there was a neurological, emotional, and spiritual connection to that subluxation that I could see. And so, yeah, naturally, I think I was drawn to CBP because it was equally as analytical, but it also they are the leaders in the research in chiropractic right now. And again, I like to surround myself with greatness and intelligence more than I have. And I mean, you only have to spend a few moments either on a webinar or YouTube or at a conference with Dr. Deed, and your mind is blown, right? And so that's kind of why I'm I'm attracted to that, to be very skilled at analysis, and very solid in my science about the spine, the anatomy, but the neurology, and now that's all sort of mixed in with stuff like you had Dr. Mo on here recently, and she's just genius on how she can boil down the science from like Dr. Heidi and all this new neurological brain-based research about what we do when we adjust the spine. And I guess it's kind of a big pot of being a solid adjuster, honing my skills, but then also embracing the vitalistic component of when we adjust a subluxation, when we correct a subluxation, it changes a person's life.
It really does, and I'm so glad you brought that up. And that's one of the beautiful things, and I'm so privileged to be able to consult doctors and coach doctors and now with the marketing that we're doing, help doctors grow. But it really does come down to the fact that we're united in a profession because of our principle. And you're right, Dr. Mo is extremely articulate at this, is that subluxation is a neurological event. There's no other way to explain it in the fact that it is an insult to the neurology. And to be able to share that with people, and this is, I'm actually going intentionally into this direction, to be able to share that with people and educate people on that is really important for all chiropractors, no matter how you practice. So I wanted to ask you, leading into that, is that I know you have this company called Chiro Media. So let's talk about that. How did that birth? And tell us a little bit about the details of how that all fits together.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a journey, Colin. Like when graduating from CMCC in 2001, there was no Facebook. There was no, like I still had my pager and my flip phone. And I thought that, having the best yellow page, the biggest, best yellow page was the way to go. And at that time it was because that's all we had. But I got out there. I did not want to sit on my laurels and, just hang my shingle and say, "Come to me. I'm great Dr. Zoldy." I got out there and met people in a new town, um, joined the chamber, joined BNI, did all these things, tried to hone my skills also in communication. But as time evolved, like I realized quickly that I wasn't just there to deliver an adjustment. The adjustment had to happen between the ears as well. The patients need to understand, not only what the adjustment is, why we're adjusting, um, the deep effects of the adjustments, the fact that I didn't come up with it on my own, that I belong to something greater than myself. And the people before me, the professionals that created this great profession for us, the research and the things that they sacrificed, like there's so much depth in our history that patients don't even realize, right? And so when I started, I'm like, how can I get that through? And eventually it came down to um, doing handouts. Like, but we know today that's the way of the dodo bird because the attention spans right now are like goldfish, they say, right? We're all drawn to our screens, we're drawn to social media, we're drawn to TVs. Heaven's sakes, if you just head down to the city anywhere, if you're in a shopping mall, if you're in a local YMCA or at a hockey rink, there's TVs everywhere and people are drawn to them. And so I just really needed to embrace the fact that we need to use things in technology and communication strategies that are already winning our patients' attention. And you know what? It was relieving because I'm kind of a chop wood, carry water kind of a chiropractor. I just like getting my job done and connecting with people, but I don't like the touch and talk kind of appointments. And so it really led to me just making PowerPoints and letting my TV screens run in the background and educating people with a visual thing. We know that 90% of the activity in our brain is visual, right? The brain actually remembers visual images much better than the written word. I mean, there's so much. I geek out on this stuff. Not only subscribe to science and research about chiropractic, I'm researching digital signage because I want to understand how the brain is wired and how the brain is wired to learn and understand and recall. Um, but also there's another component to that is there's like a reputation almost that we need to stand at the same level of what our competitive messengers are. And we all know who that is. It's like big pharma, right? And
Mhm.
so if we're not using the same strategies, for sure, uh, we don't even have a pony in the race. So that's kind of where it started. And then I was like, hey, this is working. This is great. It's a lot easier on me. My patients are understanding things. They're coming to me and asking questions about what's on the screens. And so it led to me creating, at the time I was coaching with Warrior Coaching, and I was one of the inner circle kind of docs in the advanced room. And that's what it was. It's about advancing. How can we do this better for doctors? And so I created an app. It was exclusive for the Warrior Docs. So we ran. That was my first digital signage app. Ran on a little Android box. Started creating things that not only I could use, but all the other docs. And then it evolved to realizing that just me creating this patient education material, and it's not just education, it's other stuff. It's mindset. We do know that people are subluxated in their mindset as well, right?
Big time. Big time.
Thinking, thinking, right? The three
Yeah.
T's.
Yeah.
And so I address that too. People need to be heard. They need to be like, they're not there just because of their sore back or whatever, right? It's like that's affecting their life and they need change and they need encouragement to change. And so we had a mixed message of science, we had a mixed message of mindset changing, encouragement for lifestyle, living the chiropractic lifestyle, that sort of thing. So what I realized is out of a small group of docs that were using this, and we're all fairly high volume, like seeing anywhere from 250 to 800 to 1,000 a week, we were impacting like visual captures, like 10,000 people a week. And I'm like, wow. So just doing the math again, analytical guy, I'm like, we can make an enormous impact, help doctors make an enormous impact, lift the load off their shoulders and help their screens, help them. I'm kind of a guy I like to say I wear my heart on my sleeve. If you ever met me, I'll like pour out my life story. But it's like I needed to understand and practice. I need to wear my heart on my screens and that I truly cared for my patients. Um, Even if I was only with them for a short period of time, I truly cared for them and I wanted that to be consistent. And that's where ventured into making this a more robust app. Chiro Media is actually an app on Amazon Fire TV sticks. And now it's readily available for the whole profession, not just a small group. And it's the first of its kind, as far as I know, that is a collaborative app. It's kind of like a Netflix for chiropractors. We're onboarding channel providers from multiple sources, state associations. We're looking at national associations. The CNAC has a channel. Expanding into the states, Washington State. Dr. Mo is a up and coming channel provider. We just signed on the Remarkable Practice, the Body Signals, like just amplifying and leveraging, right? It's all about leveraging the media. And we're kind of doing what, um, sort of what Spotify did to Napster, or, is really protecting the media makers, um, and making them part of a system and a broadcasting system for chiropractic.
This is fascinating. So, can I just some of the analytics and some of the details about the actual technical part of this? So, you have an Android box that feeds to different TVs that a chiropractor can put up in their office. That's going to show is it still images or is there actual video with sound as well?
Yeah, so it's off the Fire TV stick. So
Yeah.
it's just a little tiny platform. And much like people have apps on their phones, a lot of people don't really, if they're not really techie, which a lot of chiropractors aren't. um, there's apps on Amazon, and you can download apps on here. Like Netflix is literally an app; it's a streaming app. But Chiro Media is an app on the Amazon store, and so really that's our platform, and it's controlled by a dashboard on the internet, so you can control, what content you want to play and schedule it even at certain times. It's very simple to install. It's like a three-step thing. Plug it in, download, subscribe online. Like that's basically it. And then you can pick from a series of channel providers. So Chiro Media is kind of like the basic cable of everything. We provide our content that we have. And we do have a mixture. Like we're, I embrace the diversity, right? And I encourage and welcome the diversity in our practice, in our, not just our practice, but in the profession. So we have a mixture, and obviously the guidelines of different colleges, we are prevented from saying different things. So I do respect that, and I don't want to get any doctors in hot water, but they're responsible for scheduling the content that they can actually, you know, talk about. But I guess you have to pick your own how salty you want to be and how bright you want to be with respect to the vitalistic message. I'm pretty bold. I'm right up against the line. And so yeah, so that's kind of a nuts and bolts of it. It runs off the app. You control it online. You plug it into your TVs and you just let it work. And to your question, is it silent? It's a mixture of we want it to be eye catching. So we're getting away from just the static, PowerPoint-ish kind of looking 1990s era stuff. People are attracted to things that move. We have to grab their attention. The scroll factor, right? They're used to seeing things and they need to be like this, right? Because we're competing against the scroll. So our stuff is kind of a combination of short video format with no sound so that docs can still play their music. And it is still capable of music, sound. So if there are things like testimonials or short commercials that associations have made professionally, they will play as long as the volume's up. And it's a lot of mixture of short format video with motion graphics, cinemagraphs, just eye-catching stuff. And we use metaphors, right? People understand, they learn and they think in imagery. And so we're trying to really take something that's complex, and we like to get into our analytical scientific mode and think everyone understands it, but we need to break the complex down into simple. So most of our content is comprehensible at a grade 5 level.
Amazing. And it's so am I right in saying it's chiromedia.tv? That's where people can find out more about that.
It's chiromedia.app, .app.
Chiromedia.app. Okay. And I'll make sure I link that in the chat below this video. But and so and this was obviously this was your dream and it's come to fruition now. So is this all you or do you have a team involved working with you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do have a team. They're from London, Ontario, and they developed the app, and we have the rights to the exclusive rights, and we've got this trademarked in the States and in Canada for the chiropractic and health professionals. So it's a great little company called, it's actually a huge company. It's called Bart Communications, and they have another arm that's called Radiant. Um, I, just knocked on doors to find out who were the right people. And the left arm of their business, which is Radiant, is a ministry and nonprofit kind of thing. So they help churches and ministries and nonprofits with websites and marketing. They've added now digital signage so churches can use a similar app. We were I was the co-developer of this app. So I was like, okay, we needed to do this, we needed to do that. So I'm not a coder myself. I'm basically the visionary behind it, and I've had great partners to help me develop the app.
Wow. And Greg, here's the thing. I know a lot of chiropractors who have side hustles, and I'm going to ask you, so how, like, obviously this has grown into something probably bigger than you think or than you ever expected or ever thought it would when you first started it. But how has this affected your time and your focus on your practice and your family?
Yeah, side hustles are hustles. I mean, right now I'm in part-time practice, so I do have, because of the nature of the way I do practice and I educate, I don't have a problem with retention. I think it was Franson that says like the best patient is an educated patient. Like my retention, it's what the KPIs of the PVAs and all that stuff. I'm always over like 135. Like it's ridiculous, and thank God for that, because if it wasn't for that, I don't really feel like I need to go out and get new patients. We're always have open doors for them. So thankfully for that, I have a steady practice. It's a reliable source of income and service to my community, but it's allowing me to spend time on growing Chiro Media. So, the other 2.5 days a week and pretty much every waking moment, I'm always thinking about, wow, how could I? That's a great message. That's a great analogy. Or, I listen to your podcast. I listen to several podcasts, and I'm always trying to stew it down into like, this would be a great piece for in a chiropractor's office.
Mhm.
I'm even like in this move, I've thought about how we could even make it even better. I had a single big TV in the hot seats in my office, but I'm like, if this was a busier office and the CAs were always busy, and I think about going into restaurants and things like that too, and they use digital signage, I'm like, we need something as soon as they come in, and that needs to be different content than when they go and they sit in front of the hot seats.
Mhm.
And then when they leave, we want to capture their attention and give them another message. So we've developed now a system, like at least a 3 TV system, and we call it WIN. Welcome. It's a message to welcome our patients in a professional and loving manner with beautiful imagery. And we can make it seasonal. Like we just want them to feel like, wow, this is an amazing place. And then immersion, like putting them into an environment, preparing them for their adjustment. Like, wow, get the wowness and the awe, right, about how amazing their bodies are. And that's the sort of content that we show in the immersion area just before the adjustment. And then the last one is the next TV. What's next? Encouraging them to have an amazing day, well adjusted. Reminding them of upcoming workshops that we may have or promotions, reminding them that, hey, you better remember to pour in and invest in yourself and do your exercises, right? And we'll see you next visit. Like that kind of a system where people feel, wow, I'm like totally embraced when I come in here. Not only with our people, like the TVs don't replace people. I have an amazing front desk. I really truly try and connect heart to heart, left eye to left eye with every single patient. But they get that personal, but they also get that supporting messaging when they're in our office.
That's incredible. One thing that we always trained with our team on was really trying to create a culture in our office, and we've just felt that that culture was really unique with the energy that people gravitated towards, and I wanted them to feel it. And I can see how the birth of Chiro Media has created or helped offices create that culture by just sharing that message and taking the onus off the team, you know, or accumulated with the team to build that culture. So congratulations on that. I'd love to go into this direction now. So family, I'd love to know, because I know you have a daughter that was born with Down syndrome.
Mhm.
And first of all, how was it? I mean, growing up as a parent with a child with Down syndrome, learning that she was born with Downs, how has that been as a parent? What challenges and what big revelations have you had through that whole experience?
Wow. Well, Abby just turned 18. She's now a voter, and it's been a journey, Colin. It's again, God just had a way of providing, and every step of the way, like it was a huge surprise to us. We didn't do any genetic testing. Abby was born. There was suspicion. They did the testing. It was obvious, and we had to really deal with that diagnosis. It wasn't easy, having the hopes and dreams for a little girl. You know, it was tough. And but the thing is, my wife and I, we just dug in and we're like, we need to be the parents, and me as a chiropractor too, is give Abby the best opportunity for growth and development, and active participation in life, the best that we possibly could. So, a good friend of mine at the time, Dr. Mark Foulon, he was just an hour and a half south of us, and he's like, "You have to go to Philly. You need to go to the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential." I'm like, "What the heck is that?" And it is, you just have to look it up. Institutes for the Achievement, the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. And so we went for Carol and I packed our bags. Abby was only 6 months old, and we went down to Philly for a 6 day, 5 day or 6 day, 8 to 10 hours a day program on the campus to what to do about your brain injured child. That sounds kind of harsh, but that's the way that they look at it. Is that there's a lot of things that are just brain injury. You don't look at the diagnosis. How can you help that brain grow? And the primary principle is the brain grows by use. Um, I think we call that neuroplasticity,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So this was kind of a huge eye opener to me about the ability of the brain to adapt and grow and heal. And simply, Colin, it was witnessing miracles every day. You go onto that campus and it's just full. I mean, they publish a magazine, but every three months, and basically all it is just full of miracles. The deaf hear, the blind see, the lame walk, right? And so we implemented maybe not everything because it was a home program. We couldn't stay down there, but they taught us that the brain can physically grow by use, but you need to have these physical milestones. So we had crawling ramps, we had brachiation systems, right? Like monkey bars. We were doing flips with Abby. Like we were just doing crazy stuff. People would be looking at us and we're like, what in the heck are those oldies doing over there with that little girl? And flashcards, like large things. So Abby, by the time she was 15 months, she was reading, sight reading 50 words. And so this is just the heart and soul of implementing, um, the brain grows by use. And so, Abby, I think everyone says there's no such thing as a mild case of Down syndrome. Every single cell in her body has three chromosomes, of the 21st copy, right? So it's just like, um, we get those comments, but I'm like, it's because we put the work in, and Abby put the work in, and it's been awesome. She's had great opportunities in school. She's had great uh, I guess what you call it is integration into schools in the Catholic school board here in Owen Sound. They've been amazing. She's one of the first Special Olympic equestrian riders in Canada. So she does that program just south here in Markdale. So she's horseback riding twice a week. She does um, lots of things with Special Olympics. Also, she does downhill skiing at Blue Mountain with me every Sunday. So she's doing gates, and she's just, let's face it, there's challenges, but she is a light to most people's day. And her optimism, and I really don't even know if she recognizes she has Down syndrome, but she's just Abby. She's kicking it every day. She's a singer, she's a dancer, she's Riot, actually, and she's daddy's girl. So I'm kind of biased on that, but it has been amazing. We did. You mentioned just before we got on here, we really wanted to reach out to the community around here because there weren't a lot of resources as well for other parents with kids with Down syndrome. So we started up the Gray Bruce Down Syndrome Association, and we had a great startup. But unfortunately, it fizzled after about 5 or 6 years, and we didn't have anyone to sort of take it on because we had some other responsibilities in life. And so, but we made a great impact. Awareness and resources for these parents, let them know about the institutes and other physiotherapy and chiropractic and health issues that can help learning things, learning, I guess what it is learning styles. Um, Sight reading was one of them. So, yeah, we've been a little bit of a resource for people. Whenever there's a Down syndrome baby born, I think we're on the list to call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how has chiropractic been involved with Abby throughout her lifetime? Have you had to have any special considerations or special precautions, or how have you cared for her?
Like any other kid. Um, the Atlantal dental instability, the C1, C2 thing is reported in a small population of Down syndrome kids. It seems to be blown out of proportion, but it needed to be tested. We needed to do that, the flexion extension studies. I would add, and it goes against convention, but I remember being in the hospital on the phone with Deed. He's like, get those extra views. Literally. This is Deed's commitment to like not only a student, a doctor, but a dad. He's like, get those extra views. The lateral instability. The transverse ligament is more than flexion extension. And anyway, so it wasn't standard. And so I had to stand on my principles. And there was a son of a gun technician who knew who I was and refused to take that view because it wasn't typical. And I said, it's on the requisition form, dude. Just do it. And didn't get to fisticuffs, but eventually I got it. But that's about the only special consideration that we've had to do with chiropractic. She gets adjusted all the time. Um, it's funny because even growing up, we'd see Abby with her dolls in the back seat and adjusting her dolls. Like she's just a chiropractic kid. Yeah.
What
And
has Abby taught you in the years in the last 18 years? What has Abby taught you?
so much, so much. Yeah. Every day is a blessing, basically. And your life can be filled with infinite possibilities if you go after it. And it takes work. You got to cut wood and carry water to see the miracles. And she did it, you know. And I give kudos to my wife Carol, who basically carried most of the water when it came to caring for Abby and giving her all the opportunities she could, and she has. So she's amazing. Basically, what she teaches me every day is to have joy, is to bring the joy, as Brendan Burchard always says. But Abby has taught me to always bring the joy to the day.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, so Dr. Greg, so let me ask you. So now, I mean, obviously 24 years in practice now, where do you see yourself in the next year, 5, 10 years? Where's Dr. Greg going to be?
It's a great question, Colin. Every day I get up and wonder that, but I just take it step by step. I mean, I've got things in my trust, uh, which is my practice, my family, and though, family is God first, family next, and it's like be the best version of myself that I can possibly be. And then looking after my patients. My practice is an extension of my faith and my knowledge as a chiropractor, and basically is I can't um, just leave that 24 years of investment in my practice to chance. So I nurture my practice. And so who's my successor going to be in there? I don't know, but I'll take the steps and find out. And I know someone will come along and eventually take it over, and um, it'll be great. As far as Chiro Media goes, it's the same thing. I'm just trying to share the vision with as many people as possible so that they can see the potential. I believe that this is a great opportunity for our profession to sort of unite and have some unifying um, media to have access to very easily. I find that there's a lot of people in silos in our profession, as you know, they just trying to go it alone. And content creation is an enormous undertaking, and especially to do it well. And it's not our gifting. For a lot of chiropractors, they are gifted in it. And I don't believe that I'm the one that's the gifted one. I hire and I look for people that are great at communicating visually to create the content that we have. And I reach out to associations that already have this, and we could put the technology into their hands so that they can amplify the effect without having to worry about recreating the wheel of the tech. So basically, um, I hope and I pray that people see the potential in this, and I get put in the right rooms again. I think I'm off to a great start meeting the right people. We've got some really principled, like I said, the CNAC is on board, a very principled national association here in Canada. We've got, some great tactical things like Tabor Smith with the spinal hygiene, things that docs can employ in their practices. Um, some exciting things like with TRP, they've got the body signals program. It is now up on for their clients. Just creating more and more partnerships. Washington State Association, we've got a great connection there in with Chiro Congress. And I just hope this spreads like wildfire throughout the states and Canada so that we can be a broadcasting system. I can kind of see what BJ's approach was, you know. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
it's just the evolution of media and just embracing the technology because you know what? The opposition's using it. And if we don't embrace it, and if we don't get away from our little sketches on whiteboards and start looking um, like the leaders that we are, we're going to lose our position.
You have such a calm level of confidence and commitment that comes through as you speak, Greg. And I'd love to hear from you if we could give some advice or some mentorship to whether it be students who are considering a career in chiropractic or chiropractic students who have graduated, or perhaps even docs who may be struggling in practice, what would be your best advice to them?
Don't struggle alone. That's the worst place to be, and that's where the enemy wants you. So, if you're struggling or feeling intimidated, especially like you said with our new grads, it is a scary world out there. And being, the underdog in the health profession, it's intimidating. It's exciting, especially when you can see the potential. You start joining groups, and that's one thing I would highly recommend is if you're feeling under thumb, if you're feeling less than, if you're feeling that you feel like you should be somewhere more than you actually are today, get coached, get involved, find the associations that are congruent with your beliefs or what you want to believe or learn more about. I, we've got a great relationship with Baron Hoig, and every time I get on the phone or video with him, and he talks about the desperate kind of disassociation the chiropractors have. like only 10% of the American chiropractors belong to either the ACA or the ICA, right? I go to these amazing conferences here that CNAC put on, and there's only a fraction of the chiropractors in like, my goodness, like the likes of the leading researchers coming here and only filling half a room. I'm like, my goodness. So that would be my challenge is um, don't be afraid to be great, but again, you got to cut wood and carry water and force yourself to get into those rooms and embrace the awesomeness about what chiropractic is if you want to be a back pain and neck pain specialist, have at her because we got the research for that too. But there's so much more. And even just respecting that so much more. You know, being the vitalists, we kind of get labeled as the subbies or whatever you want to call them. But embrace it, dude, right? And vice versa. Embrace the musculoskeletal people. We're all part of a great profession. Um, I kind of like that we still fight because it means we still exist. Okay.
Yeah,
If the
great
fight
point.
goes away, I don't know. An echo chamber might not be a good idea, but I certainly think that we should get along a lot better, respect each other, love each other, encourage each other, support each other. We have a great profession, and but we do need more involvement.
Awesome advice. Dr. Greg, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast today. This has been just inspiring for me to listen to you and your life and your passion and just the commitment that you have, not only for your family and for your practice, but just to help advance the profession. So thank you for that.
Hey, likewise, Colin. I'm honored to be here. The likes of the people that you've had on here, I'm honored just to be on your podcast. But and thank you so much for being this vitalistic voice of encouragement for patients and not just patients, it's for doctors, I should say. Um, yeah, you're just doing a great thing. I need to get to know you better. You're only an hour and a half away, and I think it'll be a great relationship.
Hey, we probably both had patients that were traveling further than that to come and see us. So I think we need to meet up at least for lunch and an adjustment. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.